I'm Richard Witch, Executive Director of Startup Virginia, and we're about to explore why some regions win the competition for talent and capital while others just talk about it, and why Richmond's winning that race right now. This session was recorded live at the Big Dipper Innovation Summit, created by JMI, where leaders in business, culture, and technology come together to explore the ideas and industries shaping what's next. This is the RVA Advantage, strategic growth in a dynamic region. Floyd Miller, President and CEO of the Metropolitan Business League, leads this powerhouse panel. Jennifer Wakefield from the Greater Richmond Partnership, who's landing Fortune 500 relocations and billion-dollar deals, and Brian Anderson of Chamber RVA, who's getting the entire business community rowing in the same direction, and Ebony Atkins from Henrico Economic Development, who's closing game-changing corporate expansions, and David Devon of VEDP, who's making Virginia the state where companies actually want to do business. They're not cheerleaders, they're architects of Richmond's transformation, and they've got the receipts to prove it.
You know, I want to thank Ken and the JMI team for allowing me to participate today. I'm so excited to be here. And I am the president and CEO of the Metropolitan Business League. We've been around for over 55 years providing support to small women and minority-owned businesses. And it is an honor to serve today as the moderator. And you know what? The MBL is the fastest growing membership organization in the state of Virginia. So I'm very, very proud of that. So why don't we start with some introductions? David, I'd like to start with you. Tell us a little bit about your organization and just your why.
Absolutely. Thanks, Floyd. So I'm David Devan. I am the Senior Vice President of Policy and Strategy for the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, VEDP. We are an independent authority of Virginia. So we used to be part of the governor's administration. And about 30 years ago, we were spun out to report to an independent board so that we could have continuity in the vision for economic growth for Virginia across gubernatorial administrations. My why really is, you know, we've all got skills, we've all got gifts in life. How can we use those in a way that provides benefit to others? So I was in the military before. Service has always been a part of my ethos. And I was able to use the GI Bill and go to the University of Virginia. I really wanted to give back and support the Commonwealth of Virginia. So that's my why, Floyd.
Excellent.
And let me just say one more thing about kind of connecting all of us here today. So at the state level, we're focused on how does Virginia compete with other states in the U.S., but then also global locations. And so we are always evaluating our competitiveness for the industries where we want to grow. There are a lot of industries that the Richmond region is targeting, and we evaluate that and say, how can we attract more companies to Virginia generally, and then work with our partners at the regional and local level to make sure those companies land in Virginia.
Let's go with Ebony.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ebony Atkins, the Managing Director with Henrico Economic Development Authority. I am so excited for this conversation. My work focuses on supporting businesses either who are looking to come to Henrico or who are already here. That's my main goal, is supporting business success. And so this conversation is so important to me. It definitely connects to my why. I want to demystify economic development for small businesses, for entrepreneurs, for local businesses, to get them to understand there are resources available to support your growth. And even for our large businesses, Henrico is a very diverse economy. So I work with small startup entrepreneurs all the way to Fortune 1000 companies, helping them with workforce support, with real estate decisions, finding a location, anything to support their success. Work very closely with the state. When we get a project, a company that is looking at Virginia, we drill down all the way to which county or city they want to locate in. And that's where I step in and help them to understand what Henrico has to offer, to make it the best business decision for them when they decide where to locate. Happy to be here. Good morning. Excited for the conversation.
Excellent. And Jen, let's go with you next.
Sure. I'm Jennifer Wakefield. I'm the President and CEO of the Greater Richmond Partnership. We are the lead regional economic development organization. And so we work very closely with everyone here on this stage. But oftentimes when a company is looking to expand or relocate, they think about what's happening at the state level first. So they may reach out to they may reach out to the EDP first, right? And then they may reach out to the Greater Richmond Partnership. The data that's on the MSA level is really what they're looking at, but they're looking at state policies as well, right? And then we go from there and we work with each of our local partners at the city of Richmond and then the counties of Chesterfield, Hanover, and Henrico to determine what might make the most sense. It oftentimes also comes down to what sites and buildings may be available, right? And so VEDP has a fantastic database of properties, and you may have heard about the discussion of the importance of funding sites and buildings to make sure that we have what it is that companies are looking for. My why, I think, we started on, why. Yeah. As evidenced by my earrings, I'm from a small beach town. These are flamingos. I don't know which way they're showing, but I'm from a small beach town, and people are in the military. I'm a military brat. So people are in the military or they work in tourism, and there's really very little else. And I had the desire to do neither of those things. And so I left my hometown. And I don't want my son to have to leave Richmond when he grows up and decides what he wants to do. Right now, he wants to be an influencer and he wants to be famous. And that's all he wants to do. But I want to make sure that we're providing and creating the types of jobs that no matter what he ultimately does, other than being famous, he'd be able to do that right here in Richmond and not have to leave. I mean, he may want to, but I don't want him to.
And last but not least, I call him the Godfather.
Well, listening to that introduction, I'm like, am I in the right meeting? I'm not sure I'm supposed to be up here with these folks. This is exciting. But Floyd, thanks for doing this and for the great work you do. Yes. I am fortunate to be with these great colleagues. This is an amazing region, as you all know, and I think we have a lot more going for us than not going for us. But I'm Brian Anderson, President, CEO. I don't want to be chairman of the Chamber RVA, which is our regional chamber of commerce for the Greater Richmond region. It's my third chamber, so started in a very small community in North Georgia, and then moved to West Georgia, Columbus, Georgia. So this is my third time doing chamber work. And it was really, the calling was to come run a regional effort rather than just a local community. Nothing wrong with that. They're critical. We've got really good local chambers in our region that do a phenomenal job of what chambers are supposed to do. Our job is to elevate that a little bit. And so our really core mission and the mission itself is to be the trusted voice of modern business, which sounds simple, but it covers an awful lot. And so we do that work. There are really four main areas. This is part of we're in year 2 of our strategic plan. The first is that voice, advocacy. How do we work at the state, local, and federal levels to get pro-business or business-friendly policy and legislation? Secondly, we make meaningful and targeted connections. So we have a variety of events and activities to make sure business leaders and leaders of all type can get together, get to know each other, and learn how to work with each other. Thirdly, over the last 5 years, we've been very focused on economic mobility and economic inclusiveness. And what does that mean for Richmond? Many of us, not just the chamber, feel we're not going to reach our truest potential unless everyone is at the table and everybody's got a chance to move up the economic ladder. So economic mobility is critical to the work we're all doing, but that's one of the things we're focused on. And then lastly, more recently, we've always been involved with workforce in the sense of understanding how it affects business. Jen and I both share that. We hear it from our business partners all the time, but we're working under what I'll talk about a little later if we get to it, RVA Rising, which is a regional initiative. We, the chamber, are trying to be the lead convener to bring all partners who touch workforce together. We don't do that programming, but because businesses are the ultimate consumer of talent, we want to make sure we're bringing everybody together that can have an impact on getting more young people the credentials they need so that you, the business owners and the government leaders and any role, you nonprofit leaders, whatever your organization is, you've got the talent you need. So I'll just close with, my why. I spent 20 years in beverages, making sure I sold more the current year than I did the previous year. That really wasn't fulfilling. My military days, my Rotarian days told me I need to do more. So after a short stint in politics, I found that the chamber work allows me to bring my government and business together to work on behalf of the community and or region. And so I just believe we all have to provide service in some way. This is the way I get to do it. So I'm happy to have that opportunity.
So let's get into some of the conversation today. I have witnessed some amazing growth in this region. CNBC just recognized Virginia as one of the top states for businesses. Richmond is the 7th largest city for Black businesses. And so my question today, today the region is the home of 12 Fortune 500?
1,000.
1,000 companies. And so my question for all of you is, what strategic assets gives Richmond a unique advantage in attracting investment and talent?
Yeah, I would say first, location. We are the midpoint of the East Coast, right in between Miami and whatever's in Maine. We are 2 hours south of Washington, D.C., which is critically important. From a legislative standpoint, if companies are looking to influence anything at the national level and at the state level, this is a fantastic location to be. And then our people are our most valuable asset. And the fact that we have very highly trained and a very diverse workforce is critically important for companies because they want to know that there is strong talent here trained in the right industry clusters and that there will be strong talent into the future. So I would say those are my top two.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll weigh in here, Floyd. I do think that talent is really the differentiator. You get this great mix of high quality talent, modest cost of living, and really high quality of life in Richmond that differentiates it from some of the other metros that you'd be competing with. Think of Atlanta or Nashville, right? Really hard to buy a home in those places, even harder than Richmond. And you got to live near your job because commuting is near impossible in those cities. So we have, higher quality of life for your dollar. The other thing I'd say is I'm always thinking about outside of Virginia and global connectedness at the state level. Richmond is increasingly globally connected. Think about the Richmond Marine Terminal, the logistics corridors of 64 and 95, the airport adding routes almost daily, really give it that attractiveness for international companies, particularly European ones that want to locate from on the East Coast of the U.S. And then companies who are thinking about, if I'm going to produce something, how do I get it to the largest markets in the U.S. as quickly as possible?
Chime in a little bit here too. And it kind of comes back to my why. So I'm originally from Grand Rapids, Michigan. I say that often. I'm a Michigander. But I've been here 9 years. And when I was back home, Grand Rapids is very similar to Richmond. There's a river that runs through it with the downtown along it. And I was witnessing gentrification in my hometown. And the thing about Grand Rapids, the demographics are very different. So compared to Richmond, it's much less diverse. So when you come to Richmond and you hear that it's one of the top places for Black businesses to thrive, this is a place where you can really dive in, connect with business owners of color, but business owners of all types, of all levels, and really elevate your business, maximize your network, and do the things that can help your business grow. That's what attracted me to Richmond, is its diversity and just the vibrancy of the business community and the diversity, regardless whether it's restaurants, retail, consultants, all of these things are owned by folks with different backgrounds, different interests, different values, but there's a lot of support to see their growth here. And I think that's what continues to attract people from Northern Virginia, from some of the more expensive markets. They see Richmond as affordable, as diverse, and as vibrant as well.
I just piggyback on that. If you look at the roles of my colleagues, they specifically do economic development, meaning trying to bring either something new and or get something to expand. We, the chamber, not just regional and or if you're a local chamber, the role is try to make the community good enough, nice enough, well-respected enough that businesses will want to be there. Well, my job's easiest in the country because this is a really phenomenal place. People say, tell me why Richmond? I'm like, well, tell me when to stop because the list is really long. So that variety, I think, is our strength. Sometimes it can be a little bit of a hindrance because we get a little bit, I wouldn't say complacent. Sometimes I do as an audience, but we can be almost so blessed with our riches that we don't have that hunger some other places do. But it's easy to sell Richmond in the sense we've got all the things Ebony just said. I mean, our diversity is probably the number one strength. And then the variety of not only amenities, but education opportunities arts and culture amenities, natural outdoor amenities. Just keep on going. So it's not hard to sell Richmond in a sense. We've probably been just a little too quiet. We really told our story as loud as some people. I mean, Michigan's got $30 million. Michigan tells themselves a lot. Ohio's got $50 million. We really don't, other than through our tourism dollars. What if we really did turn on the microphone? We probably would get overrun. So we're all talking as we look to regional activity. How can we balance quality growth? I don't want to be in a place, and I'll leave the names out, but you know where they are, that you're stuck in traffic for 2 hours. Or
Nashville.
I'll let her be the good cop, bad cop.
I think I already used them. I already called it out.
We don't want to be stuck in traffic. We don't want our schools overrun. They get to 35 and 40 students per teacher. So right now, I say we're in a really sweet spot. The question is, will we control what we can control, work on the things we need to do better at while we continue to accentuate our positives? But again, we are very fortunate to be here.
And if I could add on, you brought up my favorite topic, which is marketing the state. Our state has not had the dollars needed to market the state in comparison to the peers, especially that Brian mentioned, Michigan and Ohio, absolutely phenomenal at that.
Or our region. She needs more money.
That is correct. We both do, right? And so we have just embarked on a new strategic plan, and we are going to launch a large marketing campaign to attract those businesses here and to tell that story. But we need everyone's. We need all of your help. And I don't have my glasses, so I can't see your faces. So I have no idea, though I can tell where Mike is. But we need all of your help to help tell our story. And so sometimes I will tell this story and liken it to, I am a native of the state of Florida, and they're a little different than Virginians, right? And so if a native Floridian wins the lottery, immediately, right? Once the numbers pop up, right? Like immediately they go out and buy a yellow Lamborghini, get as much cash as they can out of their bank account and have cash like flying out the top of a, yellow Lamborghini while they're driving 95 miles an hour down 95, telling everyone how amazing they are and how they just won the lottery, right? The Virginian wins the lottery.
That's it.
They celebrate, right? With their spouse, maybe. The next day they get up and they go to work in the same car. Nobody knows. They quietly plan their exit, right? But nobody has any idea that they've won the lottery. And so when you liken that to what we talk about, like all these great things, sometimes I've heard people say in my last 8 years here, shh, don't tell anyone how amazing this place is, right? And then you think about all the crazy stuff that goes on in my former state, right? And Florida man, right? Like they're telling everyone stuff that you should not tell. Virginians are kind of very hush-hush and are very humble about everything here. And so what I would say is don't go to the Florida man extent, but talk about the key messages. Why is it that you love living in this market? Tell everyone about that. We have some of our key messages on our website at grpva.com where you can go and there's literally a why Richmond, and that means the Greater Richmond region. And help tell the narrative and help tell the story of why you enjoy living here and why businesses and people should want to locate here.
Yeah. And let's expand on that, Jennifer. In your role, what trends are you seeing in companies choosing Richmond or this region?
So as David mentioned, we've always been very strong when it comes to foreign direct investment. And that's international companies that are selecting Richmond as a place to expand their operations into the U.S. Oftentimes, we are the first place that they're putting a U.S. operations. Sometimes they're very large companies. Sometimes they're very small companies. But oftentimes, it is the first place. There has been obviously a lot of conversation, especially since the January timeframe, on tariffs, which are causing companies to look at the U.S. differently. I've been telling people, kind of when people say, how's it going? I'm saying it is the best of times, or it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, right? It depends on what industry cluster that you're in. But it has lit a fire under people, and people who were planning to make an expansion are moving faster. Others, depending on their industry cluster, may be moving slower and pausing. So there's no hard yay or nay. There's a lot of activity right now. Some of it is pausing, some of it is moving forward. We just had an announcement yesterday, a small architecture, engineering, construction firm that established an office in the city. But hey, every job is a good job, and it was 25 jobs. And so we're happy that they've decided to locate in our market.
Yeah, excellent. So David, my next question for you, Let me ask you this question, David. From your state level perspective, what distinguishes Virginia's economic development profile or portfolio?
So as I was mentioning before, it's really that cost, quality of life, and quality of talent trade-off. And we are seeing companies that traditionally might have looked in larger metro areas, realizing that Richmond has been this hidden gem. So I'm thinking about semiconductor companies that have looked at the region recently. I'm thinking about advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing, where we've got a very concerted effort to do that. We're building coalitions and we're making investments and positioning Virginia and this region in a way where we're bringing all those parts together. And I hear this acronym a lot in my work of a lot of states or communities try to give you the IKEA model. They have the community college show up or the university show up, and they show up with their brochure, and it's left to the company to put that together. I think one thing we're doing to differentiate ourselves is we are saying we're evaluating what does the company really need, and then we are helping put those pieces together. So the solution that we're providing is custom tailored to their needs, rather than saying, here's everything that we got, figure it out for yourself. How many people have been there with a box of IKEA stuff being like, I know this is supposed to go together, but I have no idea how.
Don't knock those IKEA instructions. Love those IKEA instructions.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. The pictures. Yeah. So I think that's one way which, we've got all those assets, but we've had all those assets. And I think we're really being more effective in how we bring those together in a strategic way to meet a company's needs.
Excellent. So you guys remember 4 or 5 years ago, we had the pandemic. It was really crazy times for us. But I thought it brought us closer together. You remember those calls, Brian, we used to have every week where we just touch base, Jennifer? And so I really think that collaboration is amazing. And Brian, how has the Chamber been able to foster collaborations throughout the regional growth?
Well, I'm a strong believer in regional collaboration and regional planning to begin with, because I think that we're stronger together. I mean, there's none of us can do one thing, by ourselves. But also, if you look at pre-pandemic, where Richmond was compared to Austin, Raleigh, and Nashville, and anybody else you want to compare to, we weren't where we are today. And so I think all of us used the pandemic to want to get to know each other better and realize what our strengths were and how we were stronger together. We also, I think, were able to come out of the pandemic stronger because we saw that the types of issues facing a lot of people in Richmond only got much worse during something like a global pandemic. And so to make sure that we didn't, when the next thing comes along, there'll be a next thing. I mean, I'm old enough, there was 2008 and there was 2001 and we had plenty of these sort of disruptions. How do we do things better when there's not a situation like that to help everybody move up so that, again, when there is another event, we all fare better? That wasn't the case in 2020.
Yeah.
And so I think that need to make sure we all have a chance to flourish is one. Secondly, I think as David and Jennifer and Ebony both said very well, we are a strong region if we look at our assets more than the things we're not doing well. But we can always do better. I can't pick a number, but I'd much rather grow GDP and wages and family earnings than just population growth. I mean, I spent 20 years in Georgia. We chased a lot of manufacturing jobs, a lot of jobs that were not paying family sustaining wages. And that's okay. A job versus no jobs is better. But if you look at the jobs VDP and Jennifer and Ebony have recruited and helped expand, they're paying better than the needing conversation around minimum wage. So we're doing economic mobility to a degree, but it's not enough. Until we can look at numbers that we're getting from Dr. Shetty out of Harvard and other places, Charlotte's one of the places that's moving the economic mobility needle. We're not. So that collaboration, Floyd, is that until we've got numbers that show everybody's winning, there's work to be done. Yeah. And I can't do it all with what we do. We're 12 people in the chamber. Yeah. You're about 12.
We're 12.
I mean,
yeah.
So it takes a lot to move 1.4 million people. Yeah. And so my mission every day is to think until I see those numbers move, there's work to be done, no matter how great it is for some people, until everybody benefits with that outlook there's work to be done. So we're going to collaborate and get our job done.
Yeah, excellent. That's one thing I've always admired about you. You've always reached out to the MBL to collaborate with Chamber RVA, and I appreciate that. Ebony, we do a lot together as well. What ways have you collaborated with supporting businesses in Henrico?
I mean, the list is endless at this point. That is one of the main goals that I have, is really figuring out who are the right partners to work with, and then what can we do to support businesses. MBL being one of them. SCORE is another. We have a very strong collaboration with them. We offer business office hours at the library if you want to pop in and get a business question answered. You want to know about your business plan, finances, anything like that. That's called our PUMP program. I'm also working on a very exciting initiative with the state. I don't know if you all have noticed, but we have quite a few insurance companies here. We have Allianz, Richmond National, Markel, Berkeley Mid-Atlantic Group. I could name so many others, James River Insurance, and they are all hiring. I mean, my rates have gone up. Insurance is doing really well right now. My homeowner's insurance, my car insurance, they're doing really well. And so in that, they're struggling to find underwriters. And so I'm working with the state to put together a program where we can strengthen that insurance industry pipeline, taking folks that have customer service experience, retail experience, getting them education through the community college to then go into underwriting, which is a good career, a good place, a good starting place to really build a career from skills that you may have experienced or gained even without a high school diploma. And so we really, try to get creative in thinking about what can we do to support the community, to increase economic mobility for folks that maybe are older and looking for their career still. What is their long-term plan? Folks that were laid off from an opportunity, who never really entered back into the workforce after COVID, that we still have people who are not participating in the labor force right now. And so just thinking about what can I do from Henrico that will support the entire region. Those boundaries, Henrico, Chesterfield, Richmond, they're not visible when you drive down the street. We work very closely with Chesterfield, with our partners at the city, with Hanover, and even beyond, even with Petersburg. We have initiatives that are for the broader region because we recognize that people don't care about that. They don't care about the fact that my budget is different than Chesterfield's, or the money that I have to work with may limit some of the things that I can do. They really want to know, well, what are you doing for us? What are all of you doing for us? So we try to continuously foster that collaboration in doing that.
Yeah. And so, David, I want to address this question to you. What's the state doing to help, jurisdictions like Ebony and Richmond with their strategies?
Yeah. So there are a number of things that we're doing. One is, so VEDP has developed what we're calling core sectors, and that's based on what are our regions, what can they reasonably win based on their assets, and then how does that align with growth opportunities. And so Richmond is fortunate to be competitive for all of the industries that we're focused on. So we've got knowledge work, which includes insurance, cybersecurity, high-tech, manufacturing, which includes advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing, advanced materials, and food and beverage, all of which are in this region. And then the logistics. How do we support the logistics that will provide the foundation for growth in manufacturing in particular? If we need to move goods and services, we need to be a leader in logistics as well. Particularly you think about pharmaceuticals, a lot of that is, sensitive products, and it has to be moved by air cargo. And so we're currently working on how do we increase air cargo traffic in Virginia to support those businesses. And so when Jen or Ebony is coordinating with them, they can say, yes, we've got your air cargo solution right here in Virginia. And they're not having to truck it out of state to New Jersey, for example. The Newark airport is a big cargo hub to Europe. So we're working on those solutions. Two things we're doing with the communities in particular is, one, we talk about ecosystem building, which is evaluating for the competitor metros, like I talked about before, what are the pieces that might be missing, and how do we work with the region or the county to help fill in those gaps. And that's kind of why my role is on the policy side. How do I get money from the state to support these types of initiatives to increase the competitiveness of our communities? And then the other thing that we're doing is something we call the Local and Regional Competitiveness Initiative. And we hear from communities all the time, especially from the economic development folks, that there are a lot of competing priorities for dollars at the local level. And the case for economic development is, okay, you need to build new schools. Let's attract a business that creates recurring revenue for your community that you can invest in schools. Yes, it's going to take some investment up front, but it's going to pay dividends for 20, 30 years when that company is located and paying taxes. And, other quality of life amenities. You want better parks. You want to put sidewalks in. You want surface transportation. Those are funded by your tax base. And so we help communities develop strategies around their tax base. And this Local and Regional Competitiveness Initiative gives them a really clear perspective on how they compare to other communities in Virginia, but then also other similar communities across the country in terms of funding levels, best practices, and other things, so that you can have a fact-based case to make to leadership, to board of supervisors, to city council, to say, we are underinvesting in these things that we say are priorities. And here's the level that it takes to compete right now. So we also do engagement directly with board of supervisors to help communities advocate for that. By request, we're not going to communities and trying to push our agenda, but we love to support our partners in those kinds of conversations.
Yeah.
Next up, the public-private partnerships in driving billions in investment, and why talent is choosing Richmond over the usual suspects.
You mentioned the word ecosystem. Every meeting I go to now, everybody's talking about entrepreneurial ecosystem and business ecosystem.
Right.
Can any one of you take a stab at just defining what ecosystem really means? Just anyone.
Well, I ask regularly because there's so many assets here that a lot of places I've been in don't have. So we've got a large ecosystem already. Is it as connected as it could be? Maybe not, but we're getting there. We've got people that are really good at how to help businesses from the startup, truly the mom and pop business, all the way to, a tech startup. So we've got those assets here. We just got to get better at how we navigate people to where you are to go get help from. You do a great job of that with MBL, with all the businesses you support. Rashida, the Jackson Ward Collective. There's a lot of different, 1770, I could go on and on. Yeah. So we've got things that a lot of places don't have. We need to work harder that we can define the ecosystem and define where a business needs to go to get the help they need at the moment. I think we're getting better at that. So I would say it's just having multitudes of assets that can help people with the kinds of places where they are starting their business, but then getting them through that pipeline so they can be successful sooner. The numbers. You don't make it by year 3, you're not going to make it, and those kind of things. How do we help people get there, get success quicker so the longevity's there?
Yeah. And anyone else of any other initiatives out there that's working on that?
Yeah,
You go ahead, Emily.
we're working on a very exciting initiative. It's not fully announced and I can't share too much, but we recognize that Henrico needs a space for businesses to thrive. So we're working on an incubator program with a local partner to have that physical space. Now, a co-working space is different than an incubator. It's not just come and do your work here and leave, but we also want to provide them supports to increase their revenues, to explore their customers, to really figure out how they can get past that 3-year mark, right? And so this will be EDA funded, EDA supported, run through a local partner, but having that incubator, something like 1717 or something of that nature to support our businesses in Henrico and beyond the region. We have some very good partners that do this sort of work. Shout out to Debbie at Lighthouse Labs. Do I see anyone from Startup Virginia in here? Not right now, but okay, there we go. If you are, Vic, sorry. How you doing, Vic? If you are a local entrepreneur, those are organizations you should know. Startup Virginia, Lighthouse Labs, SCORE, our Small Business Development Center, which was put together during COVID because we recognized that was a resource this region didn't have and we really needed it. So there are several organizations, some with funding, some without, some that offer more like wraparound services for your businesses. But either way, I think that you can find the support that you need here. You just have to seek it out and look for it.
Excellent. Good, Dave.
Yeah, I'll plug. So there are two state level programs. Go Virginia, run through DHCD, the Department of Housing and Community Development, and then VIPC, the Virginia Innovation Partnership Corporation. So, at the state level, we try to support companies of all different shapes and sizes throughout their life cycle. There's also the SBDC to include in that continuum. That's more established business models where the owner is trying to just get that established business model off the ground, like Main Street type businesses. VIPC is focused on similar stage companies, but more in kind of tech or new emerging technology space. But Go Virginia and VIPC have identified this need that there are a lot of efforts, and a lot of them are overlapping, some are conflicting with each other. And so they have funding available to essentially coordinate that ecosystem. So it's called the Entrepreneurial Ecosystems Division of VIPC, and they provide grant funding if the community wants to hire an individual to help be that coordinator. So that's the front door for a business where, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm trying to get access to these resources. Who can I talk to about this that's going to make the connections and be aware of all the resources? So that kind of pathfinder or guide responsibility has become increasingly important, right? It's the same way we are with information and data now, right? Like we're inundated with it now. It's like, okay, what actually matters here? Can someone help me understand that? And so the state is really focused on not how do we further duplicate efforts, but how do we make sure businesses can better access those networks?
In VIPC, they also have funding for businesses, for tech companies. If they are looking for some further capital to grow their business, is definitely a place that you should look.
I don't know if we're to that innovation topic, but I can plug that too. That was something I wanted to plug.
All right, that is a later question. Get ahead of us.
Yeah, so Ebony's bringing up, so last year, VIPC announced $250 million of venture capital funding. It's federal funding that comes to Virginia, and the VIPC has invested in different funds that focus on different types of technology. So there are 14 types of technology that they're interested in supporting in Virginia, things like AI, quantum computing, cybersecurity, unmanned systems, things like that. So more on the high tech side. But the idea is because those are, those dollars from Virginia are being put in venture capital funds, we're automatically leveraging private sector dollars that are also invested in those funds. So we're making the funding go even further to support businesses in Virginia. And that's the mandate, is those dollars have to go, plus the private dollars that they add to the investment has to go to Virginia companies. So significantly more capital available in Virginia for early stage companies.
So Brian, as it pertains to inclusive growth and community impact, how are you ensuring economic growth benefits for all communities across the region?
Well, I think that goes back to an earlier comment. And again, you do a tremendous amount of work with MBL is understanding where you're not performing first. So we're using a lot of data, creating some dashboards, not just the chamber, we're working with our partners. There'll be some metrics and dashboards that will help us see where we are. Again, Charlotte's one of the few in the country that picked where they were in 2013 and 2018. They're now above that. So they're one of the few communities that have shown true economic mobility for all throughout the region. We've actually declined in that regard since 2013. So understanding the data is the first step. And then the second is, where then can you make the biggest difference? So if you, I think the community colleges have done some analysis. There's 1.3 or 1.8 million people in Virginia that have some level of higher ed but did not finish. So you don't get any benefit for that. If you don't have a credential, then you don't get extra wages or you don't get the promotion. So how do you help those people get a credential based on any prior learning? The second would be make sure not another high school graduate comes out that doesn't have a direct path into being employed, enlisted, or enrolled. And that's the work we're doing with all of our education partners. Yeah. We've got a lot of young people that will graduate on a Friday and 2 years later still aren't gainfully employed, are not in a higher ed capacity getting a credential. So credentials are the new buzzword. Doesn't have to be 4 year. Matter of fact, we only need about 20 to 25% of all jobs require a 4-year degree now. That's 75% that don't. So if we've got young people coming out without a credential, they're not going to make the wages that they could otherwise. 20 years ago, high school diploma would still let you get a role that can make decent wages. That's not true anymore. You've got to have a credential beyond high school. So looking at those two is the first one. And then the third would be, again, to the credit of these partners on stage, making sure we recruit companies and try to encourage companies who are expanding to pay those higher wages. So, again, a lot of manufacturing is very needed. They don't all pay the same thing. So high tech, advanced manufacturing, advanced logistics, IT, those are the roles that are going to pay the wages and can allow you just to be not just successful, but be able to have that economic mobility. So understanding all of that, connecting the dots, that's what is really hard and why it's not already solved. But I think we've got the ecosystem of partners from economic development to workforce development to community development that are really looking at this for the first time holistically. And I think we'll see those numbers move as we stay focused. Again, back, the work you all are doing, the Aspire program, not just helping a minority business or a women-owned business or a veteran-owned business get the basic blocking and tackling, but that extra set of resources. That's faster uptake and faster success. That all plays into whether you're moving the whole economic spectrum forward rather than those individual hits that my early days in economic development, you got a $10 million announcement and 20 jobs, you celebrated for 6 months. That's not going to move a region of 1.4 million. So the good news is, looking at us versus Raleigh and some other places, post-pandemic, our population is growing, but not as fast as some of the fastest regions in the country, but our GDP is outpacing our near-peer competitors. That's quality growth. So I feel like we're on the right path, but we just gotta keep digging.
On that point, I would just add that the Chamber and GRP have partnered with Brookings Institute on the Center for Economic Inclusion based on some of the data before from the intercity visit to Charlotte when we found that they were doing some things right. And so we're part of a cohort of, it's us and 7 other cities that are looking at best practices from an economic mobility standpoint. And so we're actually hosting that group in 3 or 4 weeks. They will be here. And that will be kind of the final.
That learning's been everything from homeless best practice, unhoused best practices, crime statistics. We've had a deep dive in looking at the Broad Street corridor and what we've got to do differently there. We've had, again, the data from those other 7 locations to see how they're measuring against those things as well as us. So again, understanding the problem is the first step, and then having solutions will be the second step.
As we close out today, tell me some of the big projects that you got going on, or share something with the audience that's real exciting and make them get excited about what you're doing.
There are several announcements that are coming forth soon. There are 2 more pending announcements that are similar to the project that we announced the other day. We have seen an uptick in interest in office space. And so, corporate headquarters, corporate services, finance and insurance, those are fantastic because we want to fill office space both within, our downtown core as well as within our suburban office markets, especially in Henrico. And so that's great. What's really led us is advanced manufacturing, and think of these higher paying jobs that are very tech savvy, employing, not just people with PhDs, though there are people with PhDs there, but people with these credentials that, may go through Reynolds or Brightpoint, for a shortened amount of time. That's been fantastic. We've always seen a lot in the food and beverage space within advanced manufacturing and packaging. Some really great things. There has been a trend of a lot of work in the clean energy space. Right now, some of those people are waffling back and forth right now, just based on some federal things that are coming out on whether some things are going to come to fruition or not. And so that had been very interesting. We'll see, what happens as far as whether that goes forth. But there have been, as David mentioned, some very large projects that have been out there, not to the extent as it was a few years ago. A few years ago, numbers that we had never seen before for major projects. Now, mega projects do still exist. There are some really cool things. There's a lot that has been happening in the advanced pharmaceutical space And then we've had conversations, in the semiconductor space as well. We continue to see lots of positive growth in the data center market. So
I went out to Meta yesterday.
yeah,
Great out there.
fantastic.
The investment in the data centers.
Yes.
Okay, that's pretty exciting. Brian?
Real quickly, have you heard of RVA Rising? A few maybe. And that's by design. And since we haven't been real public in the sense of a big branding campaign, but for 4.5 years now, there's been a large group of people working on how do we look at the metrics of our region, how do we look at economic mobility, and then do something differently. And we were very careful that it didn't look like we hired a consultant and they came in and told us this is what Richmond should do. Instead, we tried to talk to neighborhoods and associations and students and community leaders and faith-based leaders to understand what does everybody feel about the region. So RVA Rising is a regional planning or visioning initiative to think about those things that can move us the fastest. We've not only used the Brookings information, the Brookings partnership, we've also looked at the urban institutes, how they look at communities around the country and really adopted their framework that if you do these things, you get these outcomes. So the first major push is affordable housing, which has been sort of the focus under the Partnership for Housing Affordability for a long time. They're still leading that, but we're trying to augment political and public resources along with business resources to get those policies adopted quicker. The second big bucket is going to be workforce development because it's critical. Everybody in Richmond still would hire one more person if they had the talent they could get. So how do we do workforce differently? How do we help education be transformed, not just reformed? And then the third coming online now is health modalities, health disparities, really anything in the health ecosystem. That's being led by the Richmond Memorial Health Foundation, Reggie Gordon, to understand, again, why we aren't as healthy as we need to be. And then probably the fourth one will be education, which is a little different than workforce. Workforce is 5th grade to credential, education's birth to 5th grade. So how do we look at what we're doing well or not well? So that RVA Rising, to me, is how all of us can plug in. It's not just the chambers, not just URP or localities. It's everybody gets a seat at the table. And from doing that, then we all get to win together. Because we're no longer looking at, well, that neighborhood just doesn't perform. Well, that neighborhood may be my neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's how do we help every neighborhood, every family do a little bit better? If you do that, we all know the saying, rising tide lifts all boats. And that's not been the case, not just in Richmond, not been the case most places. So if we're intentional about that, we can be the kind of place. Richmond can be a place that has been labeled as the worst of the worst in the sense of how we, didn't treat people equitably. We need to be the best of the best. So I'm excited about RVA Rising.
Excellent.
So quickly, we have 2 really exciting initiatives right now in Henrico. Jen spoke to our suburban office product. Henrico is very known for our office buildings. If you think about Innsbrook, Reynolds, areas like that. And so we just released $5 million of grant funding to building owners to improve their office space. We are trying to get people back into the office. Since COVID, there's still a lot of work from home. And one of the ways to do that is to take A+ office and turn it into A++, full of amenities, the game room, the break room, the dog park, all of the things that make an office space attractive. So we have an initiative called Henrico Tomorrow. We just closed on our applications. We are reviewing those and we'll announce the winners. And hopefully we'll get a second round of funding to provide more funding to improve and renovate some of the aging office buildings that we have. That's helpful to our existing tenants as well as to attracting new businesses here. They are not seeing the quality office product that they want to see to locate here. Office is coming back, but we have to have something attractive to get those businesses to locate. And then the second thing, we are working on a Henrico Global Business Gateway. Lots of words as well, something like VDP. But that is a soft landing space for international companies. So you think about tariffs, you think about companies that may be considering getting a footprint in the U.S. We want to make that process as easy as possible for them. We have partnered with Gather out in Innsbrook. They will have a new location. So this Global Business Gateway will be office space for international businesses to send their business development person, send those initial executives to explore Henrico, to grow their customers here in the U.S. And hopefully from that, they'll take that small office kind of co-working space that they had at our Global Business Gateway and grow that into a fuller presence in Henrico. So two very exciting things that we are doing, really focus on office, but trying to bring quality companies to Henrico and those high-paying, well-paying jobs as well.
Last but not least, Dave.
Thank you. So at VDP, we're very focused on talent right now, and we've got a goal to be the top state for talent. And there are two initiatives within that I would highlight. One, as I mentioned before, is cost of living is a challenge across Virginia. It's across the country right now. A lot of that's driven by housing. And so VDP has partnered with Virginia Department of Housing and DHCD to develop a grant funding for middle-income housing. And I know Henrico has done something similar here. You see a gap in communities at this level. It's 80 to 120% of the average prevailing wage of the community is kind of the income level that has to be targeted through it. And it provides $3 million to communities who want to increase housing. You know, we know there's a lot of kind of community backlash that's holding up housing production in certain communities, but for the ones who want to expand and the funding for it is a challenge, it's up to $3 million for communities to fund the local portion of housing, right? So you got, what are the things that a housing developer would value? It's expedited permitting, the zoning process, other things that, cost the community money to do, which usually they would do at no cost to the developer to make sure that they can get that development in their community. So that's one, and we think that's going to really help us attract and retain talent, right? Nobody's moving to places where it's like, oh, I want to move to DC. Well, you can't find a place to rent or live in DC that you can afford right now. So we're helping communities solve that challenge. The other thing is around meeting employers' needs. So, employers will stay and expand where their talent needs are met. And we also produce this great talent in Virginia at our, great universities and colleges, our higher ed system. How can we connect the talent coming out of those institutions to the businesses that need the talent? And so we are really focused on an internship program where the state would offset 50% of the cost to the business below a certain business size, so that one, that business can get that individual earlier before they're on the job market. They're still an intern, and it helps shape the skills and understanding of these students so that when they graduate, they truly have the understanding and skills that the employer needs to make an impact. But then the employer gets the kind of first in on that talent. And then we see at the state level, if an individual takes an internship at a company, they're more likely to go there. So if we can ensure that those internships are in Virginia, then all that talent we're producing in Virginia is going to stay in Virginia. So those are the two ways that we're really focused on attracting and retaining talent.
And we did have a few good questions from the audience, so I want to just touch on this one question before we exit. It says, what types of technologies or digital tools should local businesses adopt now to keep pace with the demands of a dynamic regional economy?
AI.
Yeah.
That's the answer. Use ChatGPT.
Yeah.
People can say it's evil, but it will help you. It can help you in your marketing. How do I tell a story about this picture? I went here and I want to build a caption around it. If you ask ChatGPT the right questions, it will give you useful answers. Now, yes, you can tailor them to your voice, but I would say AI is definitely one of those things. Now, if you have any sort of customer interface, thinking about what processes can you remove yourself from? So if it's that, we all hate calling an 800 number and getting a robot, but are there things where when someone reaches out to your business, is there a way to automate some of those processes, even if it's just saying, I'll get back to you within 24 hours, or thank you for your call. Here's the person. You have a checkbox and they determine what their issue is, and you can route that to the right person. Using those sort of automated processes, ChatGPT, AI is going to elevate your business, take away your time from being in the business as much, and then just prepare you for what's coming in the future, because we're only going to have more of it.
I would say just don't be afraid of it, right?
Yeah.
It's not just ChatGPT. It's built into everything right now, right? So it's helping us go through and not just, from a marketing standpoint or, asking it questions. We're also utilizing it and trying to identify which companies we should be chasing after. What companies have a predisposition to expand or relocate their operations based on a certain few factors. And so some of the tools that we utilize, we can use if-then type scenarios. And the more that you use it, the more it gets smarter and it gives you better answers.
Excellent.
And no matter what size you are, make sure you're looking at security issues, cyber and otherwise. You can be a one-person small business to a 12-person chamber, but we've had tons of attacks on us trying to get our info. We don't store any data, thank goodness, but we've had attacks. I've had chambers around the country that lost everything, so never put that off. You have to afford that insurance policy.
Excellent. Panel, it's been an honor to serve as your moderator today. Thank you for all that you do in the community.
Thank you all.
Floyd.
Yes.
Richmond Rise isn't luck. It's what happens when you stop talking about potential and start executing with precision. What these leaders showed us is a masterclass in regional strategy. Align your public and private sectors, invest in the infrastructure that matters, build the workforce companies actually need, and create a place where people want to live, not just work. The playbook's right here, whether you're deciding where to scale your business or figuring out how regions really compete. Be sure to check out our other episodes from the Big Dipper Innovation Summit for more insights from the leaders shaping what's next.